Hi, I'm Curtis Cummings, Director in Microsoft IT, and I'm going to lead you through Microsoft IT's journey forward toward the evolution of modern computing. We're in the information age, and the world is changing. At the end of the Ice Age, slow-moving glaciers became fast-moving streams. The way of life, for many, changed dramatically, and for others, extinction. Today, in the information age, we're experiencing what our ancestors experienced. Static IT service models are becoming dynamic IT environments. We are adapting to new global business, or we become extinct. Cloud computing, private cloud, public cloud, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, Azure, Office 365, Exchange, SharePoint, Lync Online. The cloud story can get very complex and confusing when we hear about all the different components and consider their impacts on business objectives and strategy. To help us understand the challenges Microsoft customers are facing, I'd like to introduce you to Robert Ford, General Manager in Microsoft IT. So Robert, there's been a lot of studies done in the industry by Gartner and other organizations that talk about how business is being impacted by things like cloud computing. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. I mean, let's take Gartner, for instance. If you look at Gartner, in their top 10 business priorities for FY11, you're going to see such things as increasing growth, reducing costs, and improving enterprise efficiency. And if you do a similar look at the Gartner top 10 IT priorities, then it comes as no surprise to see things such as cloud computing, virtualization, and business intelligence. Now at Microsoft, we feel and see all of these as we run an IT enterprise supporting north of $60 billion in revenue. However, allow me to briefly expand on three that are near and dear to me today. The first one we talk about is reducing costs. Now personally, I would like to rebrand this one as balancing investments, because on the face of it, cost control and managing costs down is a very easy thing to say, but in reality all we're talking about is trade-offs. It simply cannot mean cutting services. I mean, how far do you cut? To the point the business is impacted? Of course not. And yet in many enterprises, the drive to reduce costs is just that, instead of balancing investments and making the right decision for the business. We also hear that improving enterprise efficiency and increasing growth are priorities for CEOs in today's business landscape. Comes as no surprise. Now this can mean many things depending on your industry, but the common thread we see across all is the desire to effectively align IT services to business needs. IT is now in the DNA of everything a business does, and now more than ever needs to be a key driver of strategy. It also needs to move to a service mentality, which means you need to provide highly available services, foundational IT services. They're top-notch. They have to be what the user wants. Just like when you pick up the phone and get dial tone or turn the lights on. The expectation from users there is now that these services just work and they trust the provider. Now, just like these services, this utility aspect of IT becomes an expectation of the move to the cloud. Highly available, highly scalable, redundant, and economic services from providers that you can trust to enable your business to rapidly grow and focus on the excellence element. Now, the third element is IT services are clearly known as core drivers that enable revenue, but IT leaders need to look at their organization to help drive revenue through timely access to structured data. Now to get there, leaders are looking at strategic business decisions which take their company to the next evolution in their industry. CIOs in turn are driving their organizations to be more attuned to business and strategic drivers within their companies.
Thanks, Robert. One last question for you. Do you see Microsoft and the customers you speak to being very similar?
Absolutely, Curtis. As I said at the very beginning, Microsoft IT is no different to any other IT shop in any other big enterprise. I think we all see the cloud as a really good thing that gives us the opportunity to relook at how we do IT today and design it for tomorrow. We're just very excited.
In Microsoft IT, we began our journey to the cloud through efforts to understand the business drivers which make Microsoft the company it is. That foundational understanding identified key areas IT needs to review and plan for. To help us understand this part of our journey, we're joined by Business Relationship Manager Dave Backman. Dave, thanks for joining us.
No worries. Glad to be here, Curtis.
Dave, we know Microsoft IT is on a journey to adopt cloud computing. Can you paint the picture of what this entails?
Absolutely. First and foremost, IT decision makers need to understand this is a long, complex journey. And to take a step with your first cloud component can be a stepping stone to the next cloud component. Once we complete all the steps in our journey, we reach our goal of dynamic and real-time IT.
Can you explain dynamic real-time IT?
Sure. As you mentioned earlier, there's a whole collection of cloud components. Each of these components has its own incremental value to the business and IT service organizations. We need to look at all of them in a holistic manner to truly understand what the cloud has to offer. To get a complete picture and understand the benefits of cloud computing for Microsoft, Microsoft IT has learned to look at evolutionary and revolutionary paths to understand the key elements they must consider to meet and exceed the demands of the business. Each of these elements touches and impacts each other. They can't be evaluated as separate components, at least not when we consider the revolutionary path and opportunities that cloud computing brings to us.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. If you move an application to the cloud, how will users authenticate? This is a huge topic of discussion and a big concern of CIOs, especially when you talk about the potential of a hybrid cloud model. So what is the secret sauce? Here at Microsoft, Microsoft IT has found it necessary to take the steps to prepare our directory services, allowing for federated authentication. However, we also need to consider the downstream impacts of this new security model. These changes in turn require modifications to our security policy, which in turn require our support teams to establish new support models, address service management challenges, changes in service level agreements, create new audit processes, etc. The point is, to deliver the value the cloud promises, we need to learn IT service groups need to be in lockstep throughout their entire journey.
That's very interesting, Dave. It sounds like you can approach a revolutionary evolution of IT services using standard IT service model approaches.
Exactly. If we look at history, we know there's been huge transitions in the past that have radically changed IT. Moving to the cloud is no exception.
Thanks, Dave. Understanding that IT service groups have to work together to see optimal benefits from cloud computing is a foundational point. IT evolution will certainly drive dramatic change in any independent service model. This really gets me thinking about cloud computing's impact on application portfolios, packaged solutions, and what Microsoft IT is doing in that space. To help us delve deeper into Microsoft IT's journey to the cloud, we're joined by IT Director Gus Gustafson. Gus, glad you could join us.
Thanks, Curtis. I've been looking forward to the conversation.
Gus, we just heard from Dave Backman about the revolutionary changes in the computing industry and how Microsoft IT is approaching its move to the cloud. Can you share how Microsoft IT is evolving in this space?
I'd love to. Let's set the stage first. Infrastructure, platforms, and software as a service. Each service model can be adopted standalone or incrementally. In Microsoft IT, we started with standalone adoption efforts. As we mature our cloud efforts, we are realizing the value of IT as a service.
Why did we start with a standalone approach?
Great question. As IT service models have evolved, so has cloud computing. The same business drivers we know of today, cost control, service levels, and revenue generation, evolved to the next logical level, infrastructure as a service. So we took advantage and made the move as early as we could. The next logical step for Microsoft IT was to look for cost savings and increased service levels in our highest used productivity applications. In our case, this was Exchange, spam filtering, and SharePoint. Adoption there moved us into software as a service, where Microsoft Online services have been running our email service since we moved to Exchange 2007. Today with Azure and SQL Azure, we're able to evolve and revolutionize our application portfolios as well, so we can now fully align our efforts and realize the business benefits of the cloud and IT as a service.
That makes sense. How does Microsoft IT determine which applications and services to move to the cloud?
Well, let me clarify. We have three primary environments: the private cloud, the public cloud, and on-premises. Each model has its benefits and challenges. What we are looking for is the mix which allows us to optimally reach our business goals. If we only utilize one of these, we lose the benefits of the other models. So the real question IT organizations have to ask is, what are the risks, costs, and benefits to my business for each IT service model? Then determine what aligns with their business.
Will this be different for every business?
Well, Curtis, the cloud is not a one-size-fits-all scenario. What Microsoft IT has done is simplify, then align our application portfolio to common criteria, which we use to determine what application will be written in Azure for their move to the cloud, when they will move, as well as what applications will stay on-premise, be retired, or consolidated. This makes migration of applications to the cloud part of our overall IT application portfolio strategy, which aligns to our broader Microsoft strategy for driving revenue in the global market.
So what about Office 365?
Office 365 allows us to approach software as a service in the same way we approach infrastructure or platform as a service. We consider and align each core IT service component, map that to our risk models, and align to our business strategies and company direction. I guess the key points for Microsoft IT in the platform and software as a service space are, first, we have done a lot of groundwork to streamline our application portfolios, going from 3,000 applications to about 1,000 today. So we have a clear view of the risks, costs, and benefits of moving to the Azure platform and the cloud. Secondly, package applications running in the cloud like Office 365 require IT groups to work through some fundamental changes around authentication, support, edge routing, security policies, to name a few. Finally, moving applications requires a deep understanding of data flow and data management. Knowing what your data is, how data is used, where data is accessed, and why certain data is needed will drive our use of cloud computing over the long term.
Groundwork to simplify application portfolios, cross-organizational alignment between service groups, and a deep understanding of data and how it flows across an enterprise, not a trivial exercise.
Well, not trivial at all, but very, very valuable.
Thank you, Gus. You've given us a lot to think about and consider.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate the time.
Globalization is a force driving business evolution. To meet the needs of evolving business in a global marketplace, Microsoft IT has begun its journey to cloud computing. Today we have shared a few of the key steps in our journey. Robert shared with us the need to understand and align to the trends shaping the world of IT. Dave clarified the need to look across all IT service components and policies. And Gus shared the need for companies to clearly understand how their data is accessed and used. These are just 3 of the key steps Microsoft IT has taken to ensure Microsoft meets its goals to evolve with global business needs, revolutionize the way we deliver IT, and ensure Microsoft never goes the way of the mastodon. To learn more about Microsoft IT's journey to the cloud, you can find additional resources and information at the following locations. I'm Curtis Cummings, and I thank you and hope your journey to the cloud is as exciting and prosperous as ours. See you next time.